All right, we'll go ahead and call the Monday, May 20th, 2024 Emmaus Borough Council meeting to order.
About June 17th.
Today's the 17th of June.
I'm in the wrong agenda. How about we call the June 17th, 2024 Emmaus Borough Council meeting to order? Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wrong agenda.
Behind time there, bud.
Yeah, month ago.
You got the whole logo on your shirt.
Maybe that was a better meeting. Shorter.
All right, we'll start off with personal appeals part 1. Does anyone have a personal appeal? Anybody online? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to special presentations. And tonight we will be swearing in Police Officer Tyler Wick.
You want to do that first?
Oh, you want to? Okay. Perfect.
The run.
Right?
Yep.
Chief,
Never
Deputy
before
Chief,
here.
Tyler. Come on up.
91 real fuel.
I see it. They get pictures.
Still cool. 91 real fuel. All right, by the way. I only did 2.5. I was like, it's too hard. I do support the Senate. That I will support, obey, and defend the United States.
Pennsylvania Constitution.
The Pennsylvania Constitution.
The laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
The law of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
And the ordinances of the Borough of Emmaus.
And the ordinance of the Borough of Emmaus.
That I will bear true and faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
And defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
And against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law.
That I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law.
Without consideration to a person's race,
Without consideration to a person's race,
color, sex, religious creed, sexual orientation,
color, sex, religion, sexual orientation,
age, national origin, ancestry, handicap, or disability.
age, national origin, ancestry, handicap, or disability.
That I take this obligation freely,
That I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office with fidelity
As a police officer in the Emmaus Police Department.
as a police officer in the Emmaus Police Department.
It's the same. It's the same old place. Yeah. It's the same.
Hey.
Okay, working.
All right, we'll reconvene at 6:07.
Yep.
Lots of comments.
I'm going to go back to community minute. Does anyone have a community minute to bring forward? Brent?
Just that the Strawberry Festival at the Canals Homestead was well attended, so well attended that some people were turned away because there wasn't enough parking. So that's a good problem to have, but hopefully we can address it.
Yeah,
And the weather was
It
perfect
was
too.
beautiful.
so if you look at committee notes from,
Right.
was it Public Works
Yeah,
Committee?
it was Public Works.
Yeah, so I did meet with them. I think we have a plan. I think they can have a lot more people there. We have plenty of parking. It's just a logistical, how we get them from those lots to
Yes,
that
if
facility.
you look in those minutes, you put updated in
Yeah,
there.
so I think they have a plan going forward. So they were encouraged,
Great.
but wonderful event it looks like.
That's all.
Did I see the fire chief online?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. I wanted to give him a shout out. Him and the crew from the fire department rescued baby ducks out of the sewer grate down by the William Street field on a Saturday last week. And I know the fire chief was there and it was quite ducky
Oh,
to
boo.
say it. But it was really neat. Like you saw like a parent called and they heard the baby ducks and the guys came and pulled it out and got them all. So he gave us a thumbs up, I see.
Mr. President, I'm going to follow up with that one. but Whatever. On June 30th, we have another ribbon cutting here in town. It's for Hank's Italian Ice on 300 block of Main Street. Ribbon cutting is at 11:30, I believe. And I also attended the groundbreaking for Juxta Hub on South 10th Street. Awesome place. You need to check it out. It's going to be phenomenal. That's all I got.
All right, I would like to welcome our new assistant borough manager to her first council meeting. And for some folks, this is Nate, your first time actually meeting her in person. You were out of town. And I hope that everything is going well. And, welcome.
Thank you. Everything's going great. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. All right, now we're going to go back to special presentations. Up next, we have Christopher Galata, who is the redevelopment, works at the Redevelopment Authority for Lehigh County, and he's going to give us a presentation on Alerta.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be back here. I was here in April to talk with you generally about the work of the Redevelopment Authority. And Shane contacted me about 5 or 6 weeks ago and asked if I would talk to you a little bit about a state law. It's known as the Local Economic Revitalization Tax Assistance Act, LRTA. And it's one that I had used in my work in Cumberland County. I don't think you're aware that for 30 years, I was the executive director of the Redevelopment Authority of Cumberland County, worked in communities like Carlisle, Shippensburg, Mechanicsburg, all of which had LRTA districts at one point, and then relocated to the Lehigh Valley about 10 years ago. So I do have experience with LRTA districts. This is state legislation that it's hard to believe almost 50 years old at this point, 1977. It provides for taxing authorities to phase in taxes on improvements or new construction for income producing properties. That could be commercial, could be industrial, could be rental housing in deteriorated areas. And I'll talk more in a minute about what constitutes a deteriorated area. If council was so inclined, you could limit the benefit to just the rehabilitation of properties rather than new construction, but it can also be used for new construction. The overarching objective here is to create an incentive to redevelop properties consistent with local needs. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not the silver bullet. This is an incentive that is frequently used in tandem with other incentives to make projects feasible, but it can be part of a package that could cause a developer to move ahead with a project that for whatever reason has not moved ahead in many years. The nice thing about LRTA is the taxing authorities receive the same amount of taxes they received prior to enacting LRTA, and only taxes on the incremental increase, the difference between the tax levy now and the incremental increase in value added by the renovation or new construction. Those are phased in over a period of time, and you decide what that period of time is. Property must either be located in a deteriorated area or the property has been subject to an order by a government agency to vacate, condemn, or demolish the structure by reason of noncompliance with laws, ordinances, or regulations. The deteriorated area may be designated after a public hearing, which is hosted by the municipality. Criteria for a deteriorated area is spelled out in the Urban Redevelopment Law and a companion act known as the Neighborhood Assistance Act. I've given you a citation to that in the bottom of the handout. Basically, it could be a deteriorated area as defined in the Urban Redevelopment Law or an impoverished area as defined in the Neighborhood Assistance Act. Each taxing authority, and you have 3 taxing authorities, the municipality, the school district, the county, may enact by ordinance or resolution. The amount exempted can be the total value of the improvements according to a schedule as long as 10 years or a maximum amount per year. And that's pretty important. You don't necessarily have to phase in the taxes on all improvements. You could actually cap the amount, the benefit, if you will, that the developer would receive from this. And we'll talk more a little bit about that. It's not necessary to have all the taxing authorities agree to this, but you could have a ordinance that indicates that you will enact this contingent on another taxing authority enacting this. But you'd have to be using the same exemption schedule. While we're talking about exemption schedules, I mentioned a minute ago that it can go as long as 10 years. I haven't seen many go 10 years. I think the vast majority have gone 5 years. And typically what I have seen in my work is a phase in where 100%, I've given you an example here in the handout, 100% of the improvements are exempted in the first year. Again, this is the added value is exempted in that first year, 80% the second year, 60% the third year, 40% the fourth year, and 20% the fifth year. It is possible to have a shorter schedule, like 3 years, and I have seen some LRTA ordinances with exempting the taxes on improvements for 3 years and 100% each year, so that the taxes on the improvements or the new construction don't kick in until year 4 in that case. The exemption does not terminate on the sale of the property. Most municipalities that I've done work in have sunset the ordinance in 5 years and then kind of evaluate whether the ordinance is doing what you want it to do. And then if a decision is made that you've had some interest in it and you've had some properties redeveloped and had some good results, then a decision could be made to renew it for an additional period of 5 years. Real quickly, the steps to enact an ordinance, LRTA ordinance, meet with taxing authorities to gauge their interest. The municipality is the one that holds the hearing on the proposed designated area. Now, at that hearing, you invite the planning commission, your planning commission, the redevelopment authority, other public and private agencies and individuals may share a recommendation as to the boundaries. Then the taxing authorities take action depending on whether it's a municipality, county, or school district, either ordinance or resolution. And then you share that information with the county assessment office. And there's a pretty detailed provision in the statute about the coordination between the municipality and the county's assessment office. Real quickly, the pros of a LRTA ordinance as I see them, taxing authorities receive the same tax levy as prior to LRTA. You're getting the same amount of taxes. I mean, I've heard people say in theory, you're not giving anything up. Depending on your perspective, that could be true. But the point is you are getting the same amount of taxes. Can spur redevelopment in tandem with other incentives. Could be the thing that actually makes a project go from the point where it's not feasible to feasible. I've seen that in a couple situations. The amount of the taxes exempted, and that should read that bullet, the amount of taxes exempted can be capped. As I said a minute ago, let's assume that you have a 5-year ordinance, 100% exempted the phase-in of taxes on year 1. That could be a substantial amount of money. Maybe it's $1 million or $500,000 in taxes. You could actually set a cap and say, well, we're not going to offer phase-in of taxes more than $100,000 a year. So you cap the benefit to the developer as an example. Another pro is that because of the declining schedule, if you go with that, you can actually receive the benefits of the improvement or the new construction after the first year. It would be only the first year that it might be 100% exempted, but then you'd begin to receive those benefits after the first year. And then the taxing authorities receive the full taxes, pre-improvement value plus post-improvement value when the phase-in of LRTA ends. The cons, taxing authorities, obviously you receive less taxes on improvements, at least initially. There's no provision for recapture of tax benefits to a developer if the property falls out of compliance with codes or fails to pay taxes. Do need to be aware of that. It does involve an implementation process, and there's a cost to implementation for anything, and LRTA included. for processing tax exemption and coordination between the taxing authorities and the county assessment office. Again, just for the sake of clarity, I'm not coming here advocating LERTA today. I was just asked to come to you and give you a presentation on LERTA. Redevelopment Authority has not taken a position on LERTA. Certainly the county has not, but Shane, based on my experience, said that I might be able to answer questions you may have, or at least give you some additional information that might not be apparent in the ordinance. So I'll stop there and I'll.
Yes, so
open it
first
to
of all,
questions.
Mr. Galata, thank you. The General Administration Committee took this up at the request of a developer. And you know, they heard what the developer had to say, but what they asked for was for us to try to find somebody that could be objective, that was educated in this area. And we all felt that you would be that person. So thank you very much for coming in and doing this.
Mhm.
What is your experience with Lehigh County as far as them? When was the last time they accepted a LERTA?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I can find out. for
I
you.
think it's been a while from,
I think I
I
can
mean,
find out for you.
if it's in the paper, it's been a while.
Yeah, I've been administering the redevelopment authority in Lehigh County for about a year. It's a great question. I'll find out.
Thank you.
Yes.
This may be dumb, but if LERTA is accepted in their building, does the local municipality still get the funds from the building of
The
the
building
property?
permit?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're just talking about real estate taxes. It's the
Okay, that's what I
phasing of-
thought, but I
of
just
real
wanted to
estate
make sure.
taxes on improvements.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Chris, thanks for coming in. If we were to do like a 3 to 5 year LERTA on this specific project, how would you go in and phase it, as construction could take possibly, you know, a year and a half, if
Mhm.
not longer? Would you start something like this on day one, or would you go off of each assessment? Like, how do you kind of pick a start date?
Yeah, I think the start date is when it's placed in service. That's my opinion. I think your solicitor can weigh in on that.
We represent the Lehigh County Industrial Development Authority, so we are quite familiar with this taxing authority, and that's typically how it begins. Once the property is in service, then it triggers the taxing exemption, and then afterwards it kicks in after whatever period you've set.
So what is considered in service? Like,
When
when you're talking about three
Usually
the
the
occupancy-
CO,
the occupancy permit. is
usually the
issued
CO
on
is.
one.
It could be building one. I mean, your issue ends up being is it's going to be assessments going, you know, so it
And you-
could be building one. It could be, I think this particular property, they're saying all buildings would be up within a 15-month time frame, right? Is that what?
It's going to be fast.
Yeah, it's a
And you
15-month.
could phase it if you needed to.
I mean, if you phase it, it raises an interesting question where if you'd want to use the placed in service test, it would keep the assessment office busy. They'd have to keep adjusting the value as
And they
phases
may-
are completed.
They may not want to do that,
And
but you can
there you go.
request it.
Thank you.
But I will get that answer to the last time that Lehigh County entertained the LERTA district.
If I could, just one other question.
Sure.
So it would be just centralized to one area, like it's something that you could say, if you implemented that, you would want to do it in different parts of town. This would just be specific to that one parcel, correct?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't see any reason, and again, I think your solicitor can weigh in on this. If you felt very strongly that only one parcel met the criteria for deteriorated area, I think you could have it for one parcel.
Okay, thank you.
I think that if you wanted to have it for a larger area, you could do that. But, yeah. Yes.
I didn't exactly understand what you meant on your second con about no provision for recapture of tax benefits to developer if property falls out of compliance. Can you say a little more
Sure.
about that?
Yeah, let's assume, even though it's new construction, so this is not a likely scenario, but let's say you have some code violations there. And the owner's not willing to correct those code violations, they're still going to get the benefit of the phase-in of taxes on improvements. If for some reason they'd stop paying taxes or be delinquent in paying taxes, they're still going to get the benefit of the phase-in of taxes and improvements. There actually, I'll just share this with you, but I don't think you'd be interested in. There actually was a law, it's Act 20, Act 61 of 2020, that is specifically for blighted properties, but it requires a 10-year schedule. And it's very specific, unfortunately, in that law. Otherwise, I'd be recommending that you look at the law under, again, Act 61 of 2020. If it gave you the flexibility that LRTA does for a schedule less than 10 years, because the nice thing about that is there is a clawback provision in Act 61 of 2020, where if they become delinquent or go out of compliance with codes, that you can claw back the tax benefit. The way you do that is by putting a lien against the property. But in your case, and I don't know why that legislation has that 10-year rather than a lesser schedule. Doesn't give you the option. It's got to be 10 years. But that's something that I think the legislature probably should be working on is tweaking LRTA at some point to include that clawback provision. Did I make that clear?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Gallotta?
Okay.
All right, Chris, thank you so much.
Absolutely. You know where to reach me. We're very much a partner with municipalities and undertaking a variety of projects and making some progress with the former Lehigh Valley Dairy. If you read the newspaper last week, and also the Catasauqua Ironworks project. And that's what we do, is to work cooperatively with municipalities to make difficult projects happen, tough projects happen. I would tell people that redevelopment authorities wouldn't exist if the work was easy. And so that's why we're here, is to work with municipalities as a partner to make these projects possible. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda would be approving the council meeting minutes from May 20th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Motion from Brent, second from Chris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Next up, we have a couple decisions on bids. Shane, I will let you run through these four.
So you have 4 different bids that have come due. Couple of low bidders have removed their bids as they had some miscalculations. So the first one is the CDBG 88 curb cut project bids. You'll see in the action piece in your iPads. On the price sheet, Engelman was the lowest bidder. However, they've realized they made a calculation error. Therefore, our recommendation would be to award the bid to Zagora Concrete for $145,000.
Do I have a motion to accept Zagura Concrete's bid? Mr. Anders, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Honchad? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? 7 ayes.
The next bid was for our road projects. As you know, council budgeted a pretty considerable amount of money for road projects this year. We've already done the chip and tar. We're going through and doing the fog sealing this week or next week to finish that those sections. But we also have the thin lift program, and we are recommending that Asphalt Maintenance Solutions is awarded the bid for $140,565.
Do I have a motion to accept Asphalt Maintenance Solutions bid of $140,000? Actually, it's $140,565.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Anders. Is there a second? Mr. Labenberg? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? 7 ayes.
Okay, the next bid is for full depth reclamation. As you know, Mr. Carl spent a considerable amount of time during budget season last year explaining this program. And we have a low bid from Recon Construction for $499,305.55.
Do we have a motion to accept Recon Construction's bid of, you want me to say the number
No, I think they got it.
or?
You should probably just say it publicly.
$499,305.55.
So moved.
Mr. Hohenscheid, is there a second? Mr. Labenberg? Discussion? Mr. Labenberg?
Yes. Quite a few of these streets do not have any curb on them. And if we're spending $500,000, I think we should have curb. Now, I realize we're too far into the game, but I talked to Lawrence today and he said he's not opposed to it and it does preserve the roads. If we're spending $500,000, I think we should address that down the road. He did say that we could put curbs in down the road and I suggested maybe we give them a year advance notice, even 2 years. But East Main Street is one that does not have curbs and parts of Tillman does not have curbs. DeLong does, and I think the north side of Tillman does. But I just think that we need to plan a little ahead
So
in the future.
I would definitely
Because-
agree with you.
Yeah.
That is an engineering issue as well, and I'll tell you why. So a lot of these roads that don't have curbs have the stormwater running off somewhere. A lot of them. I'm not saying all of them. And so if you put curbs up, you change where the stormwater calculation goes. And again, I'm not saying that these roads are the ones, but when we look at that, one of the things that we have to do is we need to take a look at what roads they are and where the stormwater normally would drop. So like Pennsylvania Avenue, for example, right? It makes sense to do curbing on most of that road, but as you go around that turn, you know, that doesn't make sense because the water goes off to the grassy area.
But I'll give you an example. On Tillman Street, the water coming off the mountain, if the curb was there, that would slow it down from going down to Pennsylvania Avenue. So,
Sure.
so that's my thinking there. But just maybe we should address this in Public Works for future projects and try to address this.
I agree. I think the excitement of actually having a paving budget this year was,
And these places are not places you would put sidewalks. So it's
No.
not sidewalk for these places. It's
Right.
just curb because that's all.
yeah, I think it's a twofold thing. Absolutely. I think curbing should go up. We just have to make sure that if we do that, does it change where the stormwater?
And he mentioned that because it's used to direct which way you want to flow the
Yeah,
water.
and sometimes the stormwater calculation is based off of it actually going into a green area. So we just have to,
But I'll give you an example where there is no curb and the road gets chewed up and that's going down the road where Comics Hotel is. What is it? Is that Fox? That goes down to South Mall. That road gets chewed up on the sides from the water coming off the mountain and
Yeah.
Salisbury's always repairing that.
Yeah.
So that's an example when you don't have curb.
Thank you, Brent. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
I
Oppose? 7 ayes.
all right, so your last one is milling and paving. In this bid, you'll see that Saks and Sons looked to be the lowest bidder, but they missed several items in their bid. So that's why the bid was so out of whack compared to the rest of them. And so they've withdrawn their bid. Therefore, the lowest qualified bidder is Schlock Incorporated for $310,990.
Do I have a motion to accept Schlock's Incorporated as the lowest bidder of
Schlauch.
So
It's Schlauch.
Schlauch. It's Schlauch.
$310,990. Mr. Lavenberg first,
Aye.
second
Yeah.
by
So
Mr.
moved.
Anders. Any further discussion?
Just,
Um,
mine was just gonna be, as Shane had mentioned, this is a year that we're really starting to kick into and use our funds for some road repairs and that. And we just approved all these. Hopefully the residents start to see some of the safer, better roads that we have and what we're doing and build upon.
Well, and I would also reiterate what Mr. Lavenberg had said before, but this goes back to council creating a legitimate budget year after year, not just a one-time budget, right? So if we know that we're trying to budget 500,000 or $1 million every year, and we can count on that 2 years from now, I can give the residents a notice. What I can't do is give them a notice and then you never do their road and they spend $20,000 to redo curbs and sidewalks. And that is where like we have to be consistent with what we budget. But I would say to Mr. Lavenberg, I would guess you'd say the same thing with curbing and sidewalk repairs on a mill pave.
Well, I mean, we went through all this when
Yes.
we were discussing sidewalks about 10 years ago. So
Absolutely.
we went through all this.
Yep.
So, and then it kind of disappeared.
Right. And we're
So
back.
so we need to kind of get back to
Yep.
it.
what, go ahead.
So, Shane, my question is, the turnpike's going to do their expansion soon. How will that affect the properties right there? Because that road is not too far from the
Yeah,
turnpike.
so there was a fear that the turnpike was going to take a whole bunch of property through eminent domain. They met with municipalities, and I think they had a public meeting not too long ago. And
They just did.
and there are a couple properties that are going to be taken through eminent domain in that project, but they're not taking all the properties along our road.
And it won't
So-
affect our roads.
So it won't affect our road. They are
That's
taking,
my main concern.
I think they're taking probably 12 feet.
So they're trying to minimize the damage. So what they're
Yeah.
doing, there weren't as many properties that they're taking outright. They're doing about, I think it's 12 and up to 16 feet at one location,
Yeah.
but it should not affect any borough roads from my understanding.
Okay, thank you. That was my concern,
Yep.
spending the money and then, 4 or 5 years down the road.
There are some streets in the townships that are going to be an issue. I know that I think Mill Road
Correct.
is a major point of contention. But as far as our streets, there's no plans of it
Okay, thank you.
affecting.
The only question that I have on this, as there's been a few people who have pulled out, my question is, if they didn't pull out and we awarded the contract to them, what happens when they realize they're that drastically
Well, so
underbidding?
we have a responsibility to award it to the lowest responsible bidder. So, I think that's a dual issue there.
Correct. So just so you understand, we would have an obligation then to make sure that that bid is correct. If we see something, if you see a number that looks so different than the others, you can calculate or kind of figure that there may be something wrong. So you'd want to look into that. Most of the times they will withdraw the bid once they realize their error.
So
If they do not, we have the right to award to what we consider the lowest responsible bidder. And it's something Mr. Pepe and I have talked about in the past, and I've sent memos and I'm happy to provide them to council if they want to see them. But there's a statutory requirement that we select the lowest responsible bidder. And in this case, we knew that the number was wrong.
And that was the same case with the CDBG. We actually brought it to both of their attentions of like, we're close to being in line with any of the other bidders. Can you explain how your bid, and we see some things in your bid sheet that don't necessarily line up. So explain to us, A, did you follow the specs, which was the issue in one of them, or B, did you just miscalculate something? Or C, like sometimes
Really-
they just need the work.
Yeah. And
Um,
that is certainly possible. But so if you were to award a bid to somebody who was not that, they would be obligated to complete that work with that bid. But remember, there may be holes in what they've made. So you're looking at the potential mistakes they could make too. So then you end up in litigation and it probably ends up being more expensive that way.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Oppose? 7 ayes. Thank you for that, Shane. Next up is communications. The first thing under the communication is an event request from the Deck Salon. Chris, do you want to?
That was Mrs. Watt.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
that's fine.
DECA is interested in having an event to sort of increase activity on a Saturday. They have some plans made, but it's still a work in progress. So at this point, in my opinion, we should support their event, but be cautious about approving any road closures until we understand the scope.
Yeah, so Mrs. Watt met with them. I met with them. I got a few more answers after she met with them. Here's the issue. No, we would try to push this to July. They want to have this event in August. So it's kind of a approve or don't approve right now. We talked to them about alcohol. They're not going to have alcohol, even though they marked it on their sheet. We talked to them about insurance. They're going to provide that. We spoke with them about, we are not going to close the street if they have 5 vendors at this event, but we could maybe ask council to tentatively close the street based on maybe having the mayor close the street if she feels that there's enough people or vendors to warrant that, because she does have an executive power to close the street. Let her decide. You could push that off on her. I know she has other things she's doing in August, but you could do that, or you could do a tentative vote of,
Contingency.
let us make that decision closer to the event. But I think you would probably need to make a vote on closing the street or not. They have notified businesses. They have reached out to businesses. She thinks that they can have a pretty big turnout, but there's a lot of thinking going on and not a lot of confirmation, right? I think that's,
Yeah, they have a lot of great ideas, but at this stage, they're still ideas.
yeah.
So I read in the notes also, another option was just some of the parking for a food truck and not shutting the street down.
Yeah, she asked, so I had said to her, like, we are not going to shut the street down for 5 vendors because that will anger downtown businesses. She had asked that, if they don't have like a tremendous number of tents and businesses, could we maybe shut parking off so that they could put a food truck or reserve it for the band to park there, because she has gotten a ban for it. And we said that we've done that in the past. We have done that in the past for events. But again, that's something that council would need to vote on, or the mayor could use her executive powers to do that. But that would be completely up to you. So I honestly, Kate, I think that's as much information as I have. Am I missing anything? Because
No.
okay. All right. So what you see is what you get. I think if you read the CRD committee notes, I think we kind of did 2 updates in there of your meeting with her and my meeting with her. I would tell you that if you don't approve it now, if you said, let's wait until July, I think that's probably too close to the event. We would probably say no at that point. If you do approve it, I would do it with a bunch of contingencies, and conditions. So.
Might I suggest that either Councilwoman Watt or the borough manager list those conditions now that they would recommend prior to the motion?
You want me to take a crack at it?
Go ahead.
Okay. I think condition number 1 would be that we could conditionally close the street if we feel that if safety needs warrant it. Let's put it that way. I think that would be
Maybe in the mayor's discretion. I would actually say that.
at the mayor's discretion. I would
I
love
would
for
actually
that.
say that because, well, no, it is technically police power, which the mayor is the one who has the authority to execute.
I would say condition number 2 is if we do not close the street, that we would close parking on the north side of the triangle for the event. Condition 3, obviously, if there's alcohol involved at the triangle, that they must pay for a police officer.
How does it work if they have it on private property?
that's their, I don't think we can mandate anything.
We wouldn't have any authority with respect to that. That would be a PLCB, most likely a special event permit or a catering permit.
But nothing with the police officers, what I'm referring to. Okay.
Correct.
As long as it doesn't spill out into the public, we have no authority with
Okay.
respect to that.
Are you putting in there if they decide that they want to have alcohol that they can? Is that part of the motion too that you're making?
I would say that if they have alcohol at the event on our property, they have to supply or they have to pay for a police officer.
So we'd also be approving alcohol in case that they.
You would need to approve alcohol. And I would say the last condition would be that they have to provide adequate insurance per our policy in the request form. I think I captured them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Would anybody like to make a motion? Mr. Anders?
I'll put that motion forward to permit it with the conditions outlined by Mr. Pepe.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Hunshine. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm not going to support it. And for the main reason of we know less than we know for this event. And generally it goes to the committee level and it's hashed out and then it comes to council and they didn't leave themselves enough time to do that. And even if they do get vendors, the part of promoting it and actually getting people there, I think they should either wait to fall or just do it next year.
I think Mrs. Watt tried to encourage that in her conversation.
Sure
Well,
did.
My vote is going to try to encourage that.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, just going to second Mr. Laberg is saying there's too many contingencies and too much unknowns. So I don't think I can support this at this moment. And it also reflects a little bit of kind of in the past, we had events like this, so like a Saturday sidewalk sale. So if you remember that, we would have that for small businesses. So it kind of reflects that.
So she mentioned the sidewalk
Is that-
sale, and that's part of the problem is they don't, nobody has that program anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and her whole goal was to promote our local businesses and give them an opportunity to showcase themselves on the weekend. I mean, that's what she said to me. I'm not sure if she relayed that to you.
Yeah, she did relay that to me. And I agree that more planning would be great. But but she's already done a lot of planning and I think it's nice that a group is coming together to take some initiative. I would feel fine about not permitting alcohol at this event. You know, if they're a great success this time and they want to try for alcohol next time but I would see that as a simplifying factor to remove.
Someone want to amend
Well,
the motion on that? Or
Ms. Baumgartner has.
I just wanted to make a point, speaking to Brent and Need's concerns, that there has been a precedent where we have approved events that were last minute and events that were at this level of planning before.
Yeah, and the last one didn't turn out well, right? We ended up in court with them.
Yeah.
But then there's been some that
But
have been successful, I think,
That
as well.
was related to the police costs.
Correct.
issue.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's commendable that one of our downtown businesses wants to try to expand people coming to town and having opportunities. Saturday afternoon is at times, not the busiest here. It's not like Sunday at the farmer's market. And if they have an opportunity to try and we can provide the opportunity, let them, if they fail, then maybe they won't come back. But if they're successful, then maybe they have an opportunity to grow it or do it another chance. The alcohol part, to me, it says no in here from what I thought I read. I'm not sold on the alcohol part. We don't have to have it, whatever,
Said alcohol, yes, no, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what it says. It literally says. yes,
So
no,
we
maybe.
put the contingency, if they do say it, then they have to have an officer and follow our guidelines that we have for if it's in place.
In one of your updated notes or in here,
She had
it
said-
says, no, they don't want to have alcohol because it's too cost prohibitive for the officer. So they said that
Yeah, it's in the page 4.
I'll just add, you're right, Roy, it can be successful, but if it's not successful, it reflects on the borough. And you want to have successful events that are organized because somebody comes to an event and it's not well organized. It's a nice way of saying it. Then the next time you have an event, people may not come. So I'd rather have something that's planned and ready to go and organized. And I understand but we have the right to approve or disapprove events based on what we have and presented to us.
My thought on it is we have a group of businesses kind of being brought together by DECA to do this. I don't agree that it would, whether it's well attended or not, I don't think that that would reflect necessarily on the borough as much as the businesses. I feel a responsibility to support the local businesses. There are always situations where someone has an idea and they want to give it a shot. And, I don't necessarily see a downside to us. I think there's more of a downside to go to them and say, no, we're not going to let you do it. At what point do they say, well, all right, now you have a borough council that's not supportive of something that we want to try to do. So I'm on the side of supporting them, letting them give it a shot, and hopefully things go as well as I think we all hope and they hope that they will.
I just wanted to add to that. I agree. And I think this would be a lesson learned. So we
Bring the microphone up a
I-
little bit. Yeah, there you go.
I hear you. So I think this would be an opportunity for them to have lessons learned. They get to see how the event works, and they've learned about the process already and how submitting an event form works. So if they choose to do it again in the future, they'll have more of that knowledge, but I support their effort.
I also feel that they may be trying to get what they're considering like this part being the hard part done first. And once they know that they have the green light, then maybe the rest of it'll start coming together a little bit quickly. And I also understand what you're saying also, Brent, but
All right.
Does somebody wish to make a motion to amend, a privilege motion to amend regarding the alcohol?
I'll make that motion, approving with the contingencies outlined by Mr. Pepe, but not approving alcohol at the event.
So I made the original
Yeah,
motion.
he made the original, he made the second. So does he
Yeah,
have to
that-
amend?
Roy can make the amendment.
can-
Roy
I-
should make it,
Okay.
but technically the second can do it. but-
Okay, I'm just asking.
No, I know.
Fine, I will-
Robert's rules are bizarre.
I will amend as well, so
Yeah, it doesn't.
that's necessary.
any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Oppose?
No,
Okay, so we have
2 noes.
Brown and
Lavenberg and Brown.
Waitberg, okay. 5-2.
Thank you guys for that discussion and debate.
Then we have something every year. But yeah, I just wish they had it more organized.
Okay.
5-2.
Some of those events take a year to.
Next
We're
up
trying to do it in
on
2
the
months.
agenda is a notice of retirement from Chief John Price, and I'm going to have Shane speak about this a little.
He's still online, right?
He is.
So I gotta be careful of what I say about him. You'll see, Chief Price has announced that his last physical working day is going to be on September 5th. And the reason he picked that date is because I think it's September 9th. He's sailing across the Atlantic to Europe. So that's a good date for him. John turns 65 soon and has decided to call it a career. What I will tell you about him is Chief Price was hired by Borough Council about 8 years ago at a time when our fire department was in disarray, complete disarray. The relationship between borough management, including council and the fire department, couldn't have been at a lower point. We had just come off of a long drug out battle with the unionization, including a Supreme Court case. And so we had a department that was in a big state of array, and Chief Price came in here and repaired that not only repaired that relationship between management and the department, but helped make it thrive. And also repaired the relationships between firefighters, because that was a mess. And also created relationships that never existed between the ambulance and the fire department, because there was always that big red line down the middle of that department. I mean, to the point where, like, at one point, a fire chief turned off the air handler to the ambulance side because he said that the fire department was paying the bill and not the ambulance department, despite the fact that it came from the borough taxpayers. But that was the dynamic that the man walked into. And what you have over there today, I believe, is one of the best professional fire departments on this side of Pennsylvania, and a well-run emergency services department. And John Price is the person that, if you looked at one singular person to create that bond and repair that relationship, that is the man that is responsible for it. There's no we involved in that. He busted his butt and recreated a leadership team over there that literally did a 90-degree turn with this department. And we now have a department that I think we're all very proud of. I think we all have a very good working relationship with them. They're very proud of their department. They're very proud of the borough. And I couldn't be prouder of what that's become over there. And I thank him. I don't often say that much about a retiree. Usually I put billboards with them golfing in weird outfits, right? Jim Farnsworth billboard.
Fill their offices.
And fill their office with 3,000 balloons. But I think Mr. Price, Chief Price is owed that recognition because he deserves it. And I can't thank him enough for what he's done for us. So John, enjoy retirement. You still have 3 months of torture from me. And I'm going to get my money's worth out of you. But congratulations. He does. He's got a lot of work to do between now and September. We have a lot of work to do. We have to think about our next steps. Like that's next. And what that's going to look like and how we're going to approach that. And I know that public safety had that discussion a little bit the other day. But those conversations are coming full force here very soon. His last official day is in November after he takes his vacation time, his personal time. So we can heckle him a little bit after he comes back from his cruise because he's technically still an employee. So we can ask him for advice and help. And even if we want him to help serve on the search committee, he's willing to do that. But his last physical working day, September 5th. So.
Can we mute him and ask if he wants to say anything?
Nope.
I didn't think so. I didn't think that we could. Brent?
I concur with everything Shane said, and I'll add that he also helped with the planning of Central Fire Station too, which was a big help and is the future of our Central Station. So.
He saved the ducks.
He saved the ducks.
We'll just make him come back for budget, that's all.
I will tell you that he has really reinvigorated the men and women in that department, and the leadership teams in that department and the bond. And it is exciting to see, especially if you were here for the snapshot before versus today's snapshot. It is completely different. And I think that leadership team, with Chief Price, but the rest of them are really working hard to make those departments successful.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, being part of that tumultuous time was,
It was your
and I think Mr. Lavenberg and Roy, were you here for that too as well? I do want to thank Mr. Price. And I think in the interview, he said he was good for 5 years and now it's 8.
He promised me 4.
He promised, yeah.
He promised
did,
me four.
did.
Yeah,
So,
promised me four.
you know, Mr. Price, Chief Price, taught me a lot as I grew. I grew a lot through that tumultuous time and also grew from this. And I also want to thank him for teaching me as well. And also, just being that leader that we needed because we needed him. So, thank you, Chief Price, for all your dedication and hard work.
Just one other note that those of us who got to attend the emergency services banquet, you saw everything that Shane described in that room, and that was, you know, had one pre-COVID, and this year brought it back, and I see that being expanded, and that was something that they helped to do and to build the personnel over there. So
Anything else? The next communication is a letter that we got from Lehigh County notifying us that we have an opportunity to be excluded from the urban county. And we're going to go with Shane's recommendation that we do not opt out of this.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lavenberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Watt. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Next up, we're only on agenda number 9. Borough Engineers Report.
Nothing. Engineer's not here.
Solicitors Report.
All of my items are addressed elsewhere. No report progress.
Unfinished business part 1. We have none. Under new business, we have an ordinance 1265, an ordinance of the Borough of Emmaus, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, amending chapter 15, subsection 602.2.a of the Emmaus Borough Code, removing a residential disabled parking sign on the public street located in front of 215 Ridge Street within the Borough of Emmaus. This is our first reading. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 1265?
So moved.
Ms. Baumgartner, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Watt? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Watt?
Aye.
Mr. Anders?
aye.
Mr. Lavenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Hohenscheid?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Baumgartner?
Aye.
Mr. Balliet? Aye. 7 ayes. Next up is ordinance 1266. This is an ordinance amending chapter 15, subsection 210 of the codified ordinances, restricting left turns from Klein's Lane to Main Street during certain school hours. This is also the first reading on this. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 1265?
So moved.
Ms. Baumgartner, is there a second? Mr. Anders? Is there any discussion?
Yeah. So there's, if you read the committee notes, it did not include Wednesdays. Okay. And so let's talk through that a little bit because I did include Wednesdays in the ordinance. And if we want to strike that, that's fine. You can still advertise it with the amendment. Wednesdays, the school gets out at 1:30 or 2 o'clock, something like, I think 2 o'clock. And they had made the request for Wednesdays. So I did include that because I don't remember talking a whole lot about that at the committee meeting. But if we want to strike that, that's fine. I just wanted to bring it up that the ordinance shows that, and we really didn't talk about it. We did talk about the rest of the week, that it would be 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock and then 2:45 to 4. And this would be, the ordinance would actually say right turns only during those times on school days. It wouldn't say no left turn, right? It says right turns only. So I just wanted to point out that the ordinance does say something about Wednesdays. And if you want to talk through that and strike that, by all means, please do.
I just wanted to add on too, we talked about the middle school grades that they're planning to have and whether that time would be different, but Chief spoke with the contact at the school and they said that would not require a time change. So what times we have here are what times they are requesting.
Mr. Lambert?
My comment is on the note from Al Kloss that his times don't match up with
our
the
time.
ordinance. And
Yeah,
it's a
so-
much shorter time.
So we talked about that. Here's the issue. He's given a 15-minute time period. We have a 45-minute problem over there. We really do. If you go over there during those times, traffic is turned into a real problem during those times. And so what we wanted to do was make sure that we kind of got that entire time period
Okay.
out there.
Then my other thought was when I read the ordinance, can we make a time where it covers all 5 days, even though it might be longer?
Yeah,
The
so-
other days and just call it a day and make it the same for all 5 days?
Yeah, I mean, the issue for Wednesdays was they get out of school 2:00,
No, it's 1:30.
It's
Or one-
one
Says
something.
1:30.
1:30. And so this would even be wrong. It should be probably 1:00 to 2:00 instead of 1:30 to 2:30. So that was the issue, was on Wednesdays.
It's too much of a
It's
difference.
too much of a difference.
Okay.
So-
I'm fine with having both days and list the 4 days and then Wednesday separate. My other question was, does this also apply to the school buses when they come out there?
So that's part of the big problem.
Because they turn left there.
We really want them to go to Second Street and turn at the red light is really what we want to accomplish.
So if a school bus is trying to turn left, we're gonna enforce that?
So we talked about that at the committee level, and that is a police enforcement, that's a police enforcement issue. The police department are the ones that are recommending we adopt this because they've done traffic over there a few times over the last few
No,
weeks.
I understand.
I can't
haven't-
answer that.
I haven't seen it,
Yeah.
but I'm assuming it's because the traffic gets backed up so far that they're not able to
Yeah.
get out of there. I understand that situation, but my thing is, I can just see buses doing it, so.
So my only
Imagine-
comment is just being a resident, I've been caught in that traffic nightmare mess, whatever you want to call it. And this is good to enforce this and I was happy to see, I didn't
I've-
know it was on the table until.
Yeah, I have gotten caught in it coming from State Ave, right? Coming down Lehigh
In the morning.
in the morning.
Yep.
Like I've been backed up beyond the Ridge Street red light in the mornings.
And-
Oh,
and
And the other
address-
safety concern that they were having too is it gets backed up so much that people start encroaching on the railroad tracks. Like they actually think it's starting to flow and the next thing you know it, everything stops and now we have, pedestrian vehicles stopped on those double tracks up there. So hopefully that'll cut down on some of this as well.
To address Mr. Labenberg's concern, I imagine this will be communicated with the school where these buses are coming.
They're the ones that are, the school's the one actually asking for the ordinance.
Oh, he was first.
So my only concern with the sign is it seems like there's going to be so much on there, right? Monday to Friday, 8 to 9, Monday, Tuesday at this time, Thursday, Friday at that time, Wednesday at this time. Can we, I mean, even if it means just extending it to say whether it's 1:30 to 3:30, 5 days a week, or 1 to 4, 5 days a week, just so that people aren't having to sit there and look at their watches. Okay, wait, today's Wednesday and it's 1:30, or, would it be out of the question to simplify it? Even if it means extending the times?
So no, I mean, I think that's council's prerogative. If you wanted to do a 1 to 4, right, Monday to Friday on school days, you absolutely can do that. Our public works department would not appreciate that, but that's their problem. They'll have to adjust their turning too. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, I mean, that.
they're the only ones other than the patrons at the school that use that repeatedly, regularly all day throughout the day,
It's a
right?
dangerous
And the compost.
intersection at other
What's that?
times.
And the compost.
Folks at the compost will have to change kind of their turning as well. Again, Second Street, red light, you can turn left there.
Right.
So it's not like just a change of habit is what it would need to be.
And then the residents will realize how nice and smooth that road is over there.
I was just going to add that it doesn't have to be a complex sign. We could just say Monday through Friday, 8 to 9, and then 2:45 to 4, with the exception Wednesday, and then list the times for Wednesday. Like,
Yeah, so it would be essentially 3 little signs, right? Say school days underneath of it would be Monday through Thursday, these times, Wednesday, these times. But again, yeah, I mean, you're right. People are gonna look at it and
Well, you have to think of what day it is too.
So when this was discussed in the committee, we asked about the Wednesdays, and then Wednesdays, weren't going to be a problem, and now they're on. I would lean maybe towards, depending on what what Chief would say, but I kind of like the simplistic approach of just doing Monday through Friday, and have that 4-hour window, because there's always going to be kids that are getting picked up a little bit early, stay a little bit late, parents come, and I
Oh, yeah,
just think
and
we'd
I'll
have
tell you
a
that-
safer intersection.
I would tell you that I call BS that Wednesdays wouldn't be a problem, because like it doesn't matter what time it is, the same kids are leaving the school just at a different time, and the same parents are coming to get them just at a different time, and the same buses are going to be there just at a different time. So Wednesdays will be an issue just like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
And this is the first reading, so from now until our next council meeting in July, if whatever motion's made, if we find some new information out from the chief, from some input, we can always adjust it. Mr. Brown?
This then triggers another thought, then leading down another road. But talking about safety and the school, we know we have signage, but what about lights and caution lights? Even though it's a state highway, that we would get permits and things of that nature. But I think this triggers then a future thought of putting some kind of LED blinkage for safety concerns at those certain times, but not for this ordinance, not for right now. But it's a thought that needs to be had if we're gonna go down this road. Because
Yes, it's not
got-
technically a school zone, but you're looking at like a crowded corridor kind of.
Yeah, especially it just is leaning towards, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, it looks like it's leaning towards that. Is something that we might have to investigate.
Especially as the school grows.
Yeah, again, it's a state road, so we got a lot of hoops to jump through, but
I'm hopeful that with South Second Street opening back up, that is going to alleviate some of that congestion. I mean, for the last 5 or 6 months, it's been a nightmare over there, though. So,
Mr. Lindbergh?
Either way, Wednesday's separate or all 5 days the same. I just want to verify that we have the times that we want, because
So
I don't know when the actual problem is. Is it 15 minutes before school ends, or is it right when school ends and then the traffic is leaving? When is the actual issue? Because I don't want to make it extra longer than it has to be, but on the other hand, you want to make sure it's the right time.
So Al Kloss's memo of his times, like what Mr.
the
Labenberg.
committee went with different times than what Mr. Kloss had suggested, though. And that was based on the police department observing over there.
I know Madam Mayor's been down
Yeah.
there since the beginning of 7 generations. So
I think she should go back to crossing duties over there.
she'll put the.
No.
Give her a whistle and a police hat. She'll take care of it.
Yeah, no, it's not happening.
This was a 20-minute discussion.
Does anyone want to make any suggestions or motion here?
You do have.
We made a motion.
Well,
and a second.
to
This is
remake a motion,
discussion.
or
Yeah, we have Ms. Baumgartner and Mr. Anders.
anybody want to amend?
I don't think I want to
You-
at this point. This is a first reading and we can address it.
Well, no, so here's the problem.
Okay.
If you approve a first reading as is, you're essentially allowing me to advertise this thing and you can't change it in the second reading of this.
Correct. Yeah, once it's advertised.
That's the beauty of us doing a first reading. Now, if you're not comfortable with where we are, I think we have until the August council meeting I would say that's probably kind of our drop dead to adopt something like this. So
Because
you
you're gonna
could, you
next
could
school year.
just vote it down tonight. And since we already have a motion on the table in a second, you can just vote it down tonight and we go back to public safety at our July meeting, get it kind of worked out a little bit more. And then
withdraw.
reintroduce it at the July council meeting. We could do that with an adoption in August. That could be an easy fix unless you're good with like, all we need to do is figure out times here. Then you can just amend it and move on.
But as long as it's before the advertisement, that's what Shane's pointing at. If it's, once it's advertised, it's locked in and any material amendment requires re-advertisement under the MPC.
Can I withdraw my motion? Is that
That's your second.
my
she's-
second? Yeah.
Shannon would have to first, maybe.
Another option is you could
But
table,
If it's already on the table, just vote.
Okay.
Or you could just,
or you can make a motion to table it.
That's what I was gonna recommend.
A table is a prevailing motion. It supersedes.
But
it
there is a
supersedes
time,
other
there is a
motions.
time frame though on the tabling though.
But that'll bring you to the next council.
so
meeting.
even though they have a motion and second, somebody could come in right now and.
Yes, under
Okay.
Robert's rules, that is a super prevailing motion.
Correct.
You can do that anytime.
With no discussion.
Yes, correct. As Mr. A
We've
certain
done it
former
before.
council person made abundantly clear. Whom I'm sure Shane knows.
I don't miss him.
We're doing. all
My
sorts of
my
stuff
former
tonight.
or my partner's
So did you put that out there, Nate?
So I'll make a motion to table ordinance 1266.
Motion by Mr. Brown, second.
Second.
Who was that?
Mr. Hohenscheid.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Nice.
Uh,
Oh, opposed?
okay, 7 ayes.
So just have one more thought, and I don't know if this is an
We're not
issue.
allowed to have any more discussion on this anymore.
They just said
technically
that.
correct.
Yeah.
It is.
We
we
already-
passed the
But for
discussion.
something for them to address that we haven't even talked about.
That's
That's not on the
So
agenda.
the president technically can allow additional comment, but it is not. It is technically, the discussion period is over.
It's one sentence.
Go ahead.
Going west on, I guess that's Main Street. Is it an issue when people are trying to turn left on
It is
Defiance
it
Lane?
is a major issue.
So should we address that sign turning during these times too? Because if it's both those issues, I'm just throwing it out there, maybe the committee can address.
The
it.
only,
That's
the
all.
only problem there is we're coming on, we're
It's a state.
we're on a state road. I don't know that we are allowed to legislate that. I think
I'm-
PennDOT has to.
I'm almost positive that because that's a state road, I don't think we have the authority to make
Okay,
that.
I just thought that maybe that was part of the issue
But you're
too.
right, it is.
That's a
It
major,
is.
that's a
Maybe,
major issue.
And much like Mr. Brown raised, Mr. Brown is correct. You should consider putting those types of flashing lights there, but we don't have the authority to do it. So it's a long process of which your engineer will spend many
We've.
fruitless hours
we've done that
banging
with the-
his
we've-
head.
We've done that with the crosswalk right
Right,
here
we
on.
did
on the
crosswalk in
triangle.
town
Yeah.
here. So anyhow, that's all I have. If we're gonna do it, maybe they can address that. That might be a longer term solution, but
That's over one sentence, Brent.
Thank you.
Good
Um,
good luck to Jessica.
Moving on, unfinished business part 2, we have none. Items not on the agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring forward? Hearing none. Madam Mayor's report?
Thank you. You have my report for this quarter. National Night Out is coming along quite well. We're up to 28 different community organizations and vendors that are coming out this year. So it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I want to specifically thank our solicitor. He is sponsoring Percy the Camel. We will have a camel this year,
a live Campbell?
a live camel
Yes, Mr. Levenberg, you've been instructed to ride the camel.
from Peaceable Kingdom Petting Zoo. Percy
Who
will
hump
be
or one
here.
hump?
Just stand back.
I do
and
not
watch
know
it.
the nature of the humps for the dromedary, which I'm sponsoring, if it is a single hump or double hump camel. I believe the technical term is dromedary.
Percy is a big camel.
It's not the one that like escaped the other
Yes, it
winners.
is. The one that trotted down 309.
Wait, so I'm paying for an escaping camel?
You are.
We also want your liability insurance.
Oh, I'm so getting departnered.
So yeah, other than that, progress.
Oh, thank you, Madam
Not
Mayor.
good progress.
Yeah. Committee reports. We're going to start off here with Public Work.
So
Public
now I
Works,
gotta
Ms.
follow
Sanders.
the mayor with that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, I get no respect. So we did meet on June 10th and our meeting notes are attached. However, we do have two things for official action. And I do know we have someone in the audience, I believe it's Nick from USG. We have the tank maintenance program contract up to review this evening. And Shane, is it okay to let
Yeah,
Nick,
absolutely.
Nick, would you like to come up and just talk a little bit about the proposal for us? Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
You prefer to have a visual?
So
Just want me to
I
talk
know
through
we
it?
they have everything they need, Nick.
Okay, great.
They have, I think, probably six attachments here.
Okay, great. So you've seen the condition of the tanks. I was before the council in 2022 and
Mhm.
most of you look familiar and I've remember you all having me. So thanks for having me again. I think the need for the work on the tanks, if you've seen the photos, goes without saying. Our program provides a long-term sustainable solution. The way that we do that is we're like best way to equate our firm is like a design build contractor where we're handling engineering and all the aspects of the construction permitting, but then safeguarding in the long term the tanks with the tank maintenance program. There's no term of the contract that the borough is locked into. They can get out of the contract at any time. That's an important distinction to make. So long as that the services that have already been rendered are paid for. One of the unique aspects of the program is that we can spread those payments of these, what are typically larger engineering and construction projects over a couple of annual or triannual cycles. So you can split those into 2 or 3 budget years. And we're looking at doing a couple of your smaller well tanks in the first year, which would be 2024 through 2025. And then looking at your larger tanks, which are on Fifth Street. If you've been through that area and seen those, looking at that work schedule from 25 to 26 and 26 to 27. I do have kind of a list of some of the things that we provide. I've mentioned the engineering services. We provide the inspection and then the ongoing coverage and maintenance. So different than a one-time contractor that would come in and do work, we provide contractually a guarantee for not only the workmanship, but the materials and the ongoing maintenance of everything that's maintainable on the tanks. There's no kind of ownership or lease back or anything like that. It's simply a maintenance contract with all the engineering and construction included within that. There's a few different financial benefits, and one of the things to understand about the sustainability of the program is that all of the future services are included in that as well. So once you get through the, let's call it what most people refer to as the capital phase to get these assets back to like new, then it has a sustainable amount in the maintenance program, again, that you can opt out of at any point. But all of the future services, including the major renovations, are included in that sustainable budget number. So that's different than most other programs out there, really any program out there. Open to questions or specifics. I don't know exactly what materials you have in front of you, but happy to take those questions.
I had a
Yes.
question. We have the, I don't know what you'd call it, but like the pricing scope.
Yes, absolutely. I'll pull
And
that same up. in
For
front of me.
the Fifth Street tank, between year 3 and year 4, is that cost split? So in year 3, it says upfront renovation and there's a cost. And then in year 4, it says visual assessment, but the same cost. And I'm just wondering if that was kind of splitting the cost over 2 years. Is that what that?
Correct. Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
splitting the capital cost from the 2026
Okay.
construction. So
And I
you're-
assume that's
yep,
true for the next one right below it,
that is also
for
true for
between
that.
2 and 3. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
absolutely. Yep. No. And
So-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say, and the difference in the cost in those two projects is the state that the tank is in. One is requiring exterior blasting. We used to call it sand blasting, although we don't use sand in the industry anymore because it's a dangerous product to use. But that tank will be completely blasted inside and out, whereas the other tank that you have has been renovated somewhat more recently, and we would be providing surface preparation and exterior overcoating and then interior work on that tank. That's what accounts for the difference in the cost. It's not that just 1 year later is that much more expensive. There's an entirely different scope there.
So I understand it's a 2-year project, but is it 500, half of 530? Is it half of that for 1 year and half of that for the second year? Or is it 531,000 for 1 year and 531,000 for the second year?
That's per annual. It's 531,000
actual,
for each.
okay.
That's the actual, yep. And those are not subject to
I was hoping
inflation.
for the other answer.
Yes, I know.
But I did want to state, Mr. Pepe, I am correct. At least what we're doing initially, we did receive a grant towards the work on this, correct?
Yeah, so if you do the math all the way through, we received a $1.2 million grant. It's a 30% match, so you have like 500,000, I think somewhere in there we have to match. If you do the math on this entire project, we're right about there in its entirety. What we did, and what the reason why it's spread out the way that it is I sat down with Nick. We looked at what Borough Council had budgeted to do this year. Remember, we did not have the grant when we approved the budget, so we have enough money to do essentially one of the tanks, which I think was well 7, I think is what we budgeted for. It might have been well 6. Nonetheless, when we sat down, we said, okay, we already have this much money set aside. That can be my match for this year, right? So with that, we said, well, 6 and well 7 could get done this year. And that's why you see those two in year 1. And then we move up into the other 2 as we go. You're just going to have to remember this in budget season, because we have a significant match in the next 2 years that we're going to have to set aside for this project. Okay. But all in all, as you know, we've vetted this hours and hours at the committee level and meeting with Nick and his group. This is the great thing. We've got the bulk of this thing covered in grant money. Just spreading it out the right way was the challenge, and I think this will do it.
And so, Mr. Pepe, I'm correct. This evening, we are looking for a motion to approve the contracts for executing.
Correct. They are a CoStarz vendor. They have a CoStarz contract. We researched it. We looked at it. It's good. So yeah, today we would ask that you approve that contract, understanding that is front to end on this.
Correct. So go ahead. Shanna has.
I had a question about the SOWs. So 1 through 4 have some similar sections. So there's section 4, 5, 8, and 10. If you look at it, I didn't see anywhere where it specifies, I think it's section 8 that talks about potential reasons why there might be an increase in fee. I think that was the section. But I didn't see anywhere in there where it said that the company needs to notify us of any anticipated increased annual fee. There's nothing that specifies how much time they need to do that, like within what time frame they need to do that and give us notice of any fee change.
I think you're looking at section 12, maybe. That
Uh,
talks about the excessive inflation.
I have to go back. Hold on.
It's the last section in their agreement.
Section 4 does have a 5% yearly cap.
Yeah, but I think it was section 8. My iPad's a little slow. Hang on. So section 8 talks about environmental, healthy, safety. So they're talking about extra reasons why there could be fee increases. Annual fees, yes.
The company and the owner.
My question just is, if there is a fee increase and we have to give 90 days notice to get out of the SOW, do we need to say that they need to give us so much notice so that we have time to think about it, discuss in committee, and then vote to give them 90 days notice of removing ourselves from the SOW?
Give me 1 second.
you know what I'm saying?
I'm reading paragraph 10, which addresses that.
So it only talks about the owner notice. in
Right.
10.
And what I'm wondering is, should it say something like they have to give us 180 days notice if they're going to adjust or increase the fee so that we have time to discuss and respond in order to get them notice within 90 days.
Would you consider amending the contract to 180?
Yes, this same question came up on another contract very recently, and we have to give notice so that you can adequately budget and prepare for the next calendar year. So we can and will address that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just to clarify, when I was looking at the master agreement, the MSA, in number 9, it says that we need to give 10 days notice in order to end the master agreement. So I just wanted to clarify, because in the SOWs, it's 90-day notice. So we would have to give you 90 days notice of the SOWs and then 10 days notice for the master agreement.
I'll have to look at the reasoning to that or talk with our attorneys, but I think it is that the SOWs supersede the master service agreement. So if you've terminated those with 90 days, then I think that's just a shorter term to get out of the MSA.
I just wanted to make sure I was understanding it. So we would have to do the 90 days for the SOWs and then 10 days.
Yes, once those are gone, then the MSA is basically useless, and
Great.
I guess that's why I thought it was 30, so.
I just wanted to make sure. I understood.
Baumgartner, I knew.
Okay.
Ms. Baumgartner, Councilwoman Baumgartner, I read it the way you do.
Okay.
So you may want to check with your attorney on that.
Okay, we will. What would you prefer that to say?
Would you prefer to be matching?
I mean, I guess it could be matching. I just wanted to make sure I was clear on what it was saying, because there was quite a difference between the two, and just wanted to know procedurally what that would look like.
Does the borough solicitor have a suggestion?
Would council be okay with me having a brief communication, just one that won't cost you a ton of money, just to make sure I can clear this up? And the borough manager, of course, all
Yeah,
of you
so
agree.
I was actually just gonna say, maybe what you do is, if you're okay with the concept, maybe your motion is contingent upon the solicitor
Approval.
finalizing terms, based on, the suggestions that we've already made.
And yeah, that's perfectly fine. You can make it conditional upon that, subject to the review of those time periods.
Does someone want to make that motion then? Or Shanna?
Sure, I can make that. I've been doing a lot of talking, I guess. I'll make the motion to approve contingent on the solicitor's approval, review and approval.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Ms. Baumgartner, second by Mr. Anders. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Oppose? 7 ayes.
Thank you all.
Thank you very
coming
much.
out.
I'm gonna get up and talk to him real quickly. Doesn't look like you need, well,
No.
okay, Shane can handle this part.
The next item for the agenda is the termination of Josh Cox from the Public Works Department.
Yeah, we're just asking for a motion to not retain Joshua as a full-time public works employee, still in his probationary period.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Anders. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Baumgartner. Is there any other further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Did want to comment real quick from our meeting that as noted earlier, South Second Street is pretty much a completed project. There's a few miscellaneous checklist items that are still being completed. So there's some extra stop signs and some work around the sidewalk areas, but the road is up and running. It's smooth. I know Mr. Brown drove down it the other day. He beeped at me. So, they did a good job on it. They really did. And it was completed on time. Shane, I'm correct, right? Within our guidelines. So that was good. And the rest of the meeting notes are here for you. Our next meeting is scheduled for
7:10.
Monday, July 8th at 4:45, which will be a Zoom and possibly in person as well. With that, I'll report progress.
Thank you, Mr. Anders. Up next, Health, Sanitation and Codes. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nothing for official action, and in your packet, you'll see Whitetail's report on refuse pickup. There is 2 items that we're going to tackle tomorrow, June 18th here at 4:45 in the community room. One is the zoning ordinance. The task force has been meeting and got some good clarity. Zoning, again, a reminder that we can go down rabbit holes and what ifs all the time. And, well, what if we do this? And what if we do that? And what about this? And preserving Emmaus is a tough task to handle. But we were able to tackle with a lot of great talented people, some highly anticipated topics. So tomorrow at Health, Sanitation and Codes, we'll be talking about that and trying to wrap that up. So hopefully the process is in probably July. We'll start the process of a 45-day going to Planning Commission, going to zoning, Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, and things. Hopefully by August, council will have the zoning ordinance in front of them. So again, there's a lot of things in there that we tried to get right. And we're going to continue to work on. We still have some time. And hopefully we do get it right. If not, it is a living and breathing document, just like the one that was done in 1984, I believe it was, and amended 40 some times. So we'll find out. You know, the one thing is we will find out quickly if there are things in there that need to be changed. So, you know, you try to get it right and you want to work hard to get it right, but sometimes it's very difficult with, you know, different times, and, you know, it's not 1984 anymore, it's 2024. So, and then the next thing we're going to be tackling is the refuse bid spec. I looked at your bid spec from previous councils and I go, oh my gosh, there was like 14 different options. So right now at a 30,000 foot view, we're going to whittle it down a little bit more tomorrow from the committee. We have 2 options that we're looking at. And we're looking at, one option includes totes for automated pickup. The whole town cannot be automated. Some parts can be have to be manually picked up. I'm going to have totes here. I asked for totes to be here, a 65 gallon and a 95 gallon for your viewing. Don't put anybody in them like I heard last time. And then plus, so we're looking to get that bid spec wrapped up and hopefully to you guys by July. So we can get that out to bid by August/September.
Yeah, I think we have some pretty good guidance now. I think
We do.
I think tomorrow can be a productive meeting of finalizing that. There's I think some things that we want to revisit with the committee based on the notes that you and I spoke about the other day, just to make sure that I understand completely what we were trying to accomplish there. But I think after tomorrow, I think we'll have a clear direction of what that bid spec will look like. And Mr. Solicitor, I will do my best, but I don't want to be in a courtroom again on a bid spec for refuse. So I'm going to give it to you. You can tear it apart and.
It's not even the first one I've done this year.
And Mr. Ladenburg, I know last meeting you brought up who owns the tote, how can you reuse it, you know, things of that nature. So those questions
And
are being answered, and there is a process to all of this. So I'll get you more clarity on that. But so what we do know though, if we do go an option B with totes, it would be borough owned and the borough logo on the totes. If you want a specific color, right now we're thinking green, and then a yellow top, green with the yellow top is your recyclable. So anyway, that's just a generalized what we're thinking. So if you guys want any other colors, but right now that's where we're at. Nothing for official action. I'll see you tomorrow. We can talk more. Roger.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Let's go.
Up next is Parks and Recreation, Councilman Hunshide.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have nothing for official action. I will just make a plea to the community. Our Recreation and Entertainment Commission who is responsible for the Tunes in the Triangle, the summer concert series. Currently has only 2 volunteers on that commission. So if there are members in the community that have some time that they're willing to give to volunteer to be a part of that commission, it would be greatly appreciated. Reach out to me and I can put you in touch with the right person. Other than that, our next meeting is this coming Thursday, the 20th at 4:45. That will be on Zoom, and I'll report progress.
I do want to thank Alan Sylvester for the movie in the park on Saturday. I did attend it, Daddy Daycare. It wasn't greatly attended, but if you've never seen that movie, it's a lot of fun. So the people that were there enjoyed it. It was a fun time. And again, another free service that commission is able to put on for the community. So again, I want to reiterate what Mr. Hohenscheid said. If anybody's willing to give their time, if you go to the summer concerts anyway, why not volunteer and help out a little bit? They could certainly use it. We've seen this happen before where a commission member is doing all this work and he's going to end up being burnt out, and she will end up being burnt out as well, because the 2 of them are doing a lot of things for the community that we need other people to help with.
There's. No, I'm pointing at you.
You had mentioned like duty that we have.
Oh
at
yeah,
First
you're
Flex.
you're voluntold for the snack stand. I will.
No,
send
I'm
that
just
email.
asking, can you send an email with
Yeah, I'll
those
send
dates?
I'll
'Cause I
send an
don't,
email out on those dates. Yep,
I don't remember what
Yep.
they were and I don't have them.
I'll get that out to you.
And then my suggestion would be maybe they should announce it during the concert that they're looking for volunteers. Maybe they have, but that might be a good place to do it. Try to recruit is the people that are there. So just a suggestion.
The media, can you guys make sure that goes out in your report? Maybe that would help too. Thank you. Mr. Anders, did you have anything? No. Hearing nothing else. Public safety, Ms. Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a few items for official action, 2 of which the ordinances we've already discussed and taken care of. So the first additional item is the memorandum of understanding for the school resource officer for East Penn School District. So we have a new SRO at the school that's been well received by students, faculty, and school and district leadership. And this agreement is, as far as I understand, is the standard one used in this situation. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding for the school resource officer for East Penn School District.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Baumgartner, second by Mr. Labenberg. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? 7 ayes.
All right, thank you. The next item is the appointment of a new medical director. And our former medical director had to step down, and he's been involved and approves of the new one specified here. So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Dr. Samantha Williams as EMS medical director with a start date of July 1st, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Baumgartner, seconded by Mr. Labenberg. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Thank you. The next item is new ambulance design. So there was an attachment with the design proposed by the ambulance department. There are a few minor adjustments and changes. For example, on the back of the design, there's some lettering in yellow, and we suggested a darker color. So they're going to be finessing it a little bit, but they just want some general approval on the design direction. So I'm making a motion to approve the overall ambulance design.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Baumgartner, seconded by Mr. Labenberg. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose?
All right, so next up is a resolution. This is in regards to the fire inspection fees. This came to light that our fees were kind of low, and they were not really covering the costs of the borough to conduct the inspections. And so Councilmember Watt, thankfully, took a great deal of time to do some research for us and calculate what fees we should be having to cover the costs for the inspections. So she put in a lot of effort. And we are now at this point where we're essentially adopting her recommendations based on her research. So I would like to place in the form of a motion to approve resolution 2024-17, a resolution of the Council of the Borough of Emmaus, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, amending the fee schedule for the services of the fire inspector.
Motion by Ms. Baumgartner. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Labenberg, is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Okay, thank you, everyone. That concludes the items of action. You'll see our meeting minutes there. A lot to discuss, including some of the things that we had discussions on earlier this evening. Our next meeting will be July 10th at 9 a.m. And with that, I report progress.
Thank you. Next up is General Administration, Mr. Labenberg.
Thank you. You saw the presentation tonight on LERTA. I guess we're trying to make a decision here on what direction we're going, Shane.
Yeah, I think if council is in favor of adopting Alerta, I would ask that the motion would be relative to authorizing the borough solicitor
Okay.
to draft that ordinance, because that's beyond my scope of
So
ability,
I'm going
I
to give
think.
just a little background from our committee meetings. We've been discussing this for several months now. Not at every meeting, but it's new to Councilwoman Baumgartner and President Balliet. And I have been through this before when it was brought up maybe 10 years ago. I believe Councilman Brown was on
Ms.
that.
Brown, yeah.
And there's some consideration to do it, but for a shorter time, if I understand the committee correctly. I was in favor of that until I heard that this project's going through no matter what. So to me, then it just looks like we're giving somebody that can afford it a tax break. But I'm not opposed to if there's other properties in the borough and adding that for a future LERTA. Although I don't know those properties at this time. But that's my feeling, that I don't think we should do this because they're going to do it no matter what. With one contingency, they did go to the school board, and I don't know if the school board is in support of it or not. If they were to do it, no, that's a question I should have asked. The school board can do that even without the borough, right? And the county can do it even without the borough. One of any one of those three municipalities can do it, correct?
Correct.
All right. So anyhow, at this point, I'm not in favor of it, but if somebody wants to throw their.
Yeah, so as a point of just kind of going off of that, the property that has requested Alerta is 300 Furnace Street. And that is the property that currently Jeff Trainer owns. The Western Group is the possible owner. I think they're planning and hoping to close first week of July. You do have their presentation to us in your packet. I will tell you that the property in question has been sitting vacant since 1995 that we're aware of. It has definitely been labeled in many public documents as our #1 blighted property in the borough. I have been cited in numerous newspapers about this property, and that we've had over 8 different potential buyers. There's been a considerable amount of mitigation, environmental issues, like a couple $1 million of environmental issues have already been cleaned up on this property. They are asking essentially for the LERTA. I think we need to share this with them. They're asking for this LERTA because their margins are very tight. That's what they're saying to us. Their margins are very tight. Project is climbing up over $38 million, probably getting closer to $40 million. Just discovered another hydraulic fluid issue that is under the structure of the building that they're going to have to mitigate. That's above and beyond other environmental issues that they've that they've had to mitigate themselves. As you know, interest rates have climbed to about 7.5%. And so they're asking for this for investor reasons, for offset a lot of the costs that they're already incurring reasons. I personally don't have an opinion one way or the other. I see what Mr. Labenberg is saying. I also see the advantages of it. But I think it is important that you understand why they came to us and asked as well. But that's for you to debate if you want to move forward with this or not.
I just would like to add the other part that the time involved to do this, and I know Shane says it's probably not that much, but I believe an ordinance we'll have to pass.
Yes.
There's also a hearing that we'll have to have.
Correct.
So there is time in putting all this together. And in my opinion, I think we have other higher priorities in this, but like I said, they're moving forward with this no matter what. So with that being said, I'll let the rest of the council debate it.
Shane, question. I thought that the current owner had cleaned up or mitigated most of the issues. Am I incorrect with
Yeah,
that?
yeah, they've spent over $1 million, probably climbing to $1.5 million at this point. And they've now discovered, like I said, a new hydraulic issue. They also discovered a wetland issue that they have to deal with, and that was after they already paid over $1 million to mitigate other issues. It just seems like it has been one thing after another on the environmental side. Understand they're purchasing a property that had half buried oil tanks all over the property. So Mr. Trainer, when he purchased it, he knew that, and he mitigated the very bulk majority of that. His problem is the economy, right? The cost of money is his problem. And so if you have to borrow 2/3 of $38 million at 7.5%, you can't charge rent high enough to do that. So they had to look for a company that has more capital, that they can, that's more cash flush, so that they can charge more reasonable rent rates and fill the building. And so that's really what happened with why the wanting to sell to a new owner.
So, and the other question begs is, the sale sounds like it's going through. It's not contingent on us to do this LERTA, correct?
So look,
You don't know.
I don't know. My feeling is it's not. But can I say that with 100% certainty? Absolutely not. I know that what they've stressed to us is this is a big part of their investors' conversation with them.
Okay. And my last thing, sorry. When I was listening to the presentation earlier, it stated that whatever taxes we're bringing in now, which I don't know what that number is, we would still be.
$2,300.
Yeah, it's less than $3,000.
So that's so if we pass the LERTA, that's the only amount that we would be getting for several years. Is that correct?
No, that's year one.
Year one,
So
correct.
if you look at their presentation, it actually has a fairly good layout of each year it's staggered by 10%. It increases the amount. So each year you'll get an increased amount of taxes, 10%. You'll get 10% of the projected increased value in 2027 or.
You make it anything.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be 10 years.
We've indicated to them that we are not interested in
Right.
10 years.
I'm not.
We-
I'm
we
not
have-
either.
We have indicated to them that there's some interest from the committee. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we were interested in 5 years. I think that's what the bulk, the
Okay.
majority of the committee had said, right? 3 to 5.
You can,
Yeah.
and you could authorize me to prepare an ordinance for review, but not necessarily one that you're not ready to pass this yet. You guys still have a lot to consider. I can put something together for you, which will give you the opportunity to discuss this with the developer.
We do know where the administration of the school district stands. I'm not going to share that here. We do not know where the school board stands.
Okay. Understood. Thank you. Thank you for answering. that.
They have not approached the county. I think again,
Yeah.
the county is the lowest player in the as far as the amount of money that they're paying out.
But it is one thing that we don't have, that factor has not yet been calculated as to whether the county's going to have an opinion on it or not.
Okay. And
Oh,
Sharon,
no, Shan, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that this issue is raised by specific people for a specific property, but the reason why we're exploring it is because it raised some awareness of what Allura was and also an interest in perhaps identifying other properties. For example,
related.
the pool property on Harrison Street, any other properties that might have been kind of stagnant and nobody's doing anything with them. So that's why we were exploring this, to consider it more of a big picture, not this particular case, but just in general, what would be some properties that we might identify that could benefit and have some development happen where there hasn't been any because of various reasons.
And your LERTA can be tailored to address specific types of properties. This would not be focused just on this one parcel. That would be illicit and illegal, but you can make this, for the whole borough to address certain types of properties.
So the school district, if they are considering it, their solicitor writes their own LERTA and has nothing to do with
Yes.
the borough?
Yes.
Because the biggest cost saving is obviously school taxes. We all pay real estate taxes and we know how much we pay for those versus the borough and the county. That would be their biggest savings. I'd really like to know where that would go before we address it, because we're peanuts compared to what they would save with the school district.
And just so you understand, that is true that the school district and the county would have to pass their own LERTAs. That is, and then they would have to get approved through the process that is developed through this LERTA ordinance. It's not a simple, ask, just like we do for LCIDA. They have to go to each municipality that allows this and then get approval separately from that. It doesn't mean we're guaranteeing that. This simply creates the ability to approve a LERTA.
So this particular, there's a spreadsheet that they included. This particular property, right now, we get $2,392 from this property. I just want to point out that my property tax at home is $7,400. After reassessment, they're estimating that the borough would have in property taxes about 121,000 a year is what they're estimating after the buildings are all built. So we're talking about $119,000 a year difference in the property taxes.
so if you did a 5-year, after the 5th year is when it would go up to that amount.
So that's
Correct.
what Alert is designed. So
Correct.
like in year one, you have all these new you have all these new buildings, all this infrastructure, the people are all there. They're still paying $2,392. But in year two, depending on how you structured it, right? If we're saying, let's just make it easy, $100,000 in taxes is what 100% would be. But in year two, you're saying they're going to pay 20%. You're going to get $20,000 in taxes.
Right.
In year three, if you're saying they're going to pay 40%, it's going to be $40,000 in taxes. So that's how that LERTA works. It increments it up to whatever year you stop it at 100% that year.
And we would still get recreational fees like we did.
So yeah, so again, if you look at the spreadsheet, they show they are going to owe us $144,000 in rec fees upfront. They will owe us the permit fees, and then of course they're trying to bank on, they're looking at per capita, which is, whatever that number ends up being, et cetera, et cetera.
And they're higher end apartments that they're proposing.
For that cost, they have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If council is in favor of Jason writing something up, I would suggest like 4 years as a compromise. We were looking at 3 to 5, 4 as a compromise. And doing the first year would be, they pay what they pay now and then go up by 33%, and then
And just so everybody knows, you don't have to authorize that year tonight. You're just authorizing me to prepare it, not pre-peppy.
Give us some pepper.
Yeah, give it some Shane Pepe. No, but you're authorizing me to prepare that ordinance. I can leave that spot essentially blank, and you guys, as the elected officials, you can decide what you think is appropriate.
So, and also I read, Jason, that generally an ordinance is for 5 years and it has to be renewed. So in 5 years, if we choose not to, and
There's some, I'll give you, the honest answer is there's some debate on that because there's a case out there that says these can be permanent if passed a certain way. I will provide you with guidance on that if you choose to move forward on this. I will simply put it that way.
We can put a sunshine law in there or sunshine,
A
Sunset.
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 Yeah. So sunsets are traditional with these, but you don't have, but there is some case law allowing it not that you could potentially allow this to not sunset, but that's a decision for another day. I don't want to tell you, again, I'm not the elected official. I'm your scribe. I will do what you tell me to do as long as it's not illegal.
So Mr. President, I don't know how you want to handle this, but I'm not in favor of it, but if there's somebody that wants to discuss it yet.
Mr. Hohenscheid?
I don't see there being a financial downside to us, especially if there is risk that failure to move forward with this would potentially put that project in jeopardy. I think it also shows our support for the revitalization of not just that property, but potentially other properties in the future, and our willingness to work with developers who are looking to revitalize those. So I'm in support of moving forward with having the solicitor prepare that. I'd also be in favor of a 5-year. Should I put that in the form of a motion?
You can make a motion if you'd like to.
All right, then I will make a motion to approve the solicitor to work on the ordinance for the LERTA. I guess that's everything.
5 years. You
Fi-
said 5 years.
For a 5-year?
You don't have, again, you don't have
Okay.
to put a number on it. I
Okay.
can leave that blank. So you,
That's fine.
because there is going to be actual negotiation that you and discussions with this developer. That doesn't mean this is going to be applicable solely to them, but if you guys want to leave that blank and come back later,
But if
I
he
can
puts
do
it in
that.
the motion, he can do that.
Yeah, he can put it in the motion if he wants.
Motion by Mr. Hohenscheid. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Watt? More discussion, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, thank you,
Ms.
Mr.
Bumgarner,
Chairman.
after Brown.
Back to Mr. Lavenberg's point, when he asked, he left, about when was the last time the county, did alerta and the only time I can think of, was the NIS was the issue at the time, but we did not have anything at that time, during the time that I was there, there was no alertas brought to attention.
Yeah, because the NIS was the NIS is a standalone.
Right.
That was a congressional approved
I understand.
legislative district. I
But-
know because our building is right outside of it.
But even before that, there was no other
But
alertas.
Nate, it sticks in my head that Hamilton Crossings was alerta.
That was a, no, I think that was
a
part of
TIF.
the
I think it was.
It was a TIF.
I think that was a TIF.
TIF, yeah.
Learn
TIF.
TIF.
Doesn't
Yep.
she work at the
Yeah,
pool?
but I think it was TIF because I remember,
I'm so
Yeah,
confused.
But I know they used something there.
yeah.
They
That was-
did,
there's-
they did.
that was the
school-
council.
There's about a half a
school
different
school
type of
district.
tax
Yeah,
incentive
so,
programs out there.
But with that, I believe, I'm going to go back to my records at home that I have from this LERTA being brought up, like you said, Mr. Langberg, 10 years ago, or whatever it was. Howard Lieberman was the gentleman at that time. And I think this was the exact same property that we were talking about.
It was
if I'm-
not,
You sure?
yes.
Was it on South Mountain?
No, you were actually, so it was your committee.
It
That
was.
Oh,
was,
you know
that was
what?
your
It was-
baby.
It was Ridge
Uh,
Street.
It was Ridge Street,
Ridge
but then when we were looking through it, we were trying to, as we were examining it, we were looking at multiple
Expanding.
zones,
That's
right? So that's what we were,
Well, that kind of answered Mr.
Yeah.
Andrews' question about can we do other properties?
it started at Ridge and then we did identify,
Yes.
that.
Correct.
That was definitely on the,
Yep.
on the area.
Say, I was on your committee with that at that time.
Yeah.
Ms. Bumgarner?
I just wanted to clarify that all we're saying is to draft an ordinance and everything else will be discussed at committee. We're not voting on an ordinance or to approve this, so we don't have to approve it once it comes out. So just exploring the option.
And I would like to agree with almost everyone else that was in support of it and all the reasons you brought up. And I think that, you know, if we want to be good community members and with us, this is just going to build on top of us adopting our new zoning ordinances here in the future, that there could be some other properties that are
Redeveloped.
being able to be redeveloped because of us being able to do something like this. So I think this is going to be great for the community. And I think that with our ability to draft the ordinance, that it's not just a cookie cutter ordinance. There's lots of things in there that we can put in that could, benefit the community a little bit more.
And just to build on that a little bit, this is a property that we'll be renting. And so the idea too of possibly doing something to help them provide more reasonable rents is something that I'm in support of as well.
Mr. Brown? Did you have something?
No,
No.
sir.
Any further discussion on this?
He was stretching.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Oppose?
No. All right, moving on, we have resolution 2024-18, a resolution in accordance with the Municipal Records Act, which will authorize the borough to dispose of certain municipal records, and I'll place that in the form of a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Leibenberg. Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Hohenschad? Any further discussion on this?
I have a question.
Sure.
So there are some that are a bit more recent, like the safety grant documents and record of deeds reports. Is that information that's accessible online and it's just getting
No,
rid of the
it's
print?
just outside. Either we have duplicates or it's just outside
Gotcha.
of the retention.
Okay.
And
That's all.
there's a state manual that Shane, I'm guessing, looks at that
We-
there's
Well,
there's
us-
set rules.
Usually what's on here is like from the 50s or 60s. So I'm just curious,
Might not be gone.
making
Well,
sure.
We're catching up to the century. So like the 2021 employment applications, you need to keep them for a maximum
Right.
of 2 years. The rest of it is pretty much 7 years is kind of the standard for most things. But we are still going through cabinets. The nice thing is it's not entire rooms anymore, it's cabinets. So we're getting there, but
Getting
still
there.
have a little bit to go.
Any more discussion?
You need a second.
No, I made a motion. Nobody seconded it.
Nobody?
Chris
Oh,
did.
yeah, Chris
Oh.
Hohenschad did.
Oh,
That was.
I asked the solicitor if somebody seconded. He said
Yeah,
no.
Chris.
So sorry.
It wasn't loud enough, Mr. Hohenschad. I apologize.
Just for the record, I did scroll through it, and 1974 was the oldest, and 2023 was the newest. So
But I think we got rid of like 1954 police car bids at one point, I think, right?
Went way back.
The Historical Society has gotten a lot of paper from us.
But
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
So our next meeting is this Wednesday, but it's being changed to 10 o'clock,
To 11. Or to 10, I'm sorry, yeah.
10.
Yeah.
So, and before I report progress, Shane, how is the public notified when a committee meeting is canceled?
So I'm actually I will get on at 9. We will also advertise like on the website and Facebook page and.
So last meeting that we canceled, there was a member in the public that was on,
So that was posted on the website
and she
way ahead of time.
she emailed me, and
No, that
I
was
asked
posted.
if I could help her with anything.
That
She
was-
said she just wanted to attend, but I just wanted to know so I can refer to
Yeah.
her
That was posted right on the calendar as canceled
when it
ahead of time,
cancels.
because I saw her log in.
So
as
let
well.
them know,
Yeah.
check the calendar if it's canceled. Okay, now I can tell them where to look. All right.
Because that's how she, I mean, so ironically, that's how she would have logged into the meeting, where she would have clicked on the calendar link. It very clearly said canceled right above where she clicked.
Okay.
But that's how folks would
I'll
log
just
into that
email
meeting.
her and let her know
Yeah.
that, check the calendar for if it's canceled.
Yeah.
Progress.
Thank you, Mr. Leibenberg. Next up is Budget and Finance. You will find our budget performance report up through May of this year. Also attached is significant revenue and expenses for the first half of the year. And for official action tonight, I will need a motion to approve Resolution 2024-16, which is the bill list.
So moved.
The bill list as followed. The bill list is 1,177,435.60. And that is composed of payrolls number 11 and 12 of $415,475.94. Payroll taxes in the amount of $136,456.94 for the grand total of $1,729,368.47. And I have a motion by Mr. Lavenberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Watt. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Our next meeting will be this Wednesday on June 19th at 11 o'clock. And with that, I will report progress. Next up, Community Relations, Planning and Development. Ms. Watt?
So potentially for official action, the committee discussed hiring Thomas Committa Associates to make design standards. Before we talked about different options, and Tom Committa kind of came back with an option we hadn't considered at all before, of coming up with kind of a simple kind of concepts that we wanted to do, like preserve historic buildings, rather than specific rules about keeping all historic buildings red or whatever. Just preserve them, and that a developer, when they came, would have to sort of say how they were using the design standards in their plans, but they're not super restrictive. So if this is something we're interested in pursuing, and it has been budgeted for,
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, we're not voting or approving any standards. It's just to hire him to come to us with a proposal.
And then after he presents that, then that's something we would approve as a council.
yes, the ideal is that it would be done quickly and in time to put into the zoning ordinance, because it's not going to be ultra complicated and specific.
So more of a generalization.
Yes.
This was something at budget time that I advocated for, which we are under the budgeted amount by about $5,000. I believe we budgeted 15,000 in our budget. I think this is at 10. And this, and it's not a great, I guess it's a great example, but it's an extreme example. This would stop someone from, building a log cabin in downtown because it just doesn't follow the looks and stuff like that. And I think you could probably even pick up a couple sign standards and some things like that through this that'll just really help our town look, uniformed. If you look at some construction projects of Wawas and CVSs and some other local larger communities that have design standards, some of them look like barns, some of them look like warehouses, some of them look like, old mills or even farms with silos and stuff like that. And I think it's just going to make our town look and feel a little bit better, and you're going to have, a baseline to go off of.
So, oh, go ahead, Shannon.
No, you can go first.
So I guess my question is, if we don't spend this $10,000 and we don't do this, what happens?
So if you remember back at budget time, we had a long discussion about how we were going to handle the historical district piece, right? And so we talked about, do we go down the road of historic preservation of houses type of thing, or how do we handle that? And so at CRD, we've been discussing this for the bulk of this year so far. I would say we probably had that discussion starting in January or February, your first meetings. And we didn't want to handcuff, remember, so we've been very careful about the whole historical district and making sure that people, if you had asbestos siding on your garage and you wanted to get rid of it, you weren't allowed to because it was in historical, we wanted to get rid of that whole idea that you could do that. But what we did want to say was like, we want to have some kind of design standard so that we're not putting a New York City skyscraper look in the middle of certain neighborhoods, right? That if these neighborhoods are old 1.5 story brick look, right? Like down Third Street, that you could put a design standard saying this is what the design of new building should look, right? It's simpler, it's less expensive. It helps create that standard that we can use as guidance for planning. It helps that idea that we can say to prospective box store that this is the look of the town, not your typical A style that you put up there, right? And I've always said, like, had we had design standards in place,
CVS.
CVS wouldn't look the way the CVS looks, right? You could have made it look more like the style of the rest of your downtown. That's what design standards help you do.
Okay. So Leanne, you probably remember this back when we were both on council. They wanted to do a historical district in zoning and was decided against that mainly because some blocks may have 2 historical buildings and everything else on it isn't historic.
Right.
So this will address that because you're saying it's not specific to a whole block. It could be specific to a building, correct?
We're not even saying that.
It's
um,
not about, it's
Yeah.
saying if you're gonna build something new, build it in a way that people can, it's human scale and people, that it has a sidewalk and it fits in.
It blends with the community. It
Okay.
looks like it belongs in our community.
And this
is-
won't
is really what it's
preclude
designed.
somebody who lives on Ridge Street with a brick house who wants to put siding on.
It's primarily focused about new development.
No, this is not like, hey, I own a 1938 Sears home, right?
I'm just
'Cause I
trying to
had one.
understand how restrictive it
Yeah,
is.
no, I had one and it had asbestos siding on, and my dad owned a roofing and siding company, and we wanted to put regular siding on it. If we were in a historical district,
Can't do
I
it.
wouldn't be able to do it. It's not doing that. It's saying essentially, we're gonna design standards to say we want it to look similar to the
Okay.
rest of the area. It's not saying you have to use red brick of this caliber from this state in this area because that's what everybody uses. It's simply saying we want the look to be Emmaus.
All right.
Cohesive.
So with me understanding it now, I'll make a motion to hire Thomas Comita Associates for the building design standards for zoning ordinance at a cost of $10,000.
Motion by Mr. Labenberg, second by Mr. Hohenschad. Any further discussion?
I have a,
Ms. Bumgarner?
so my only concern was that costs are, for attending meetings is outside the $10,000. And is there an expectation that they would need to do like a presentation to the committee or before council or anything like that? Are there any expectations that they will have to attend meetings?
So I would tell you yes, right? I would tell you that what I would like to see them do is obviously present to the committee, but also present to council of what their final kind of design look or proposed design look would be. I mean, I think you need to see that from them and not have us present what we think he was thinking. So I would say at least 2 or 3 meetings, I would assume we should budget for here.
Okay.
Now we've got what, like 20,000 in the budget.
Yeah,
for this.
15 or something
15,
like
yeah.
that.
So
I
there's
just
definitely
wanted to
some-
mention that because it,
So I
Okay.
need to amend my motion because of the $10,000 part.
probably.
Should I amend it to not to exceed the budgeted amount?
It would be, I was gonna say, you can put a cap on it, or you can just say not to exceed the budget.
Yeah, I
would be
think that would be
possible.
I'm gonna amend my motion to not exceed the budgeted amount.
Mr. Hohenschad, you second that?
I'll second that.
Second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Getting some stuff done.
No one way.
Our next meeting will be Tuesday, July 9th at 5 PM. Progress.
Well, he-
You will find some board and commission meeting notes attached. Up next is personal appeals part 2. Nobody in the audience. Is there anybody left online?
We're taking a look. We saw one, just a fire chief.
Chief?
He's probably sleeping.
Chief, now if you would like to say anything about your retirement, if you're available, you could speak and say something, or you don't have to either.
It's past his bedtime, so.
He's sleeping.
Do, do, do,
All right, hearing nothing from the chief.
do, do, do.
Borough managers report.
All right, we're almost there. Okay, so I've hired a bunch of seasonal employees. I'm just gonna read the list off. Lifeguards, Brandy, McKechnie, Kaya Vandersloos, Dante Squalls. I think they mess with me on these names. Kira Martino, Oscar Donovan, Sophia Harmon, and Megan Martino.
Dutchies.
Concessions, we've hired Amanda Gross, summer parks attendant, James. We're gonna go with Barwiger. I think that's a typo. I am not that last person. I'm not hiring at this point.
Delphine.
No, I'm not hiring that person at this point.
Oh.
I'll come back in July, but I'm not there yet with them. So I've hired those individuals.
Next month.
I've also hired Jordan Meyer as a part-time EMT. And so letter C, I do need you to vote on. As you know, we have in the budget for the cloud-based scanning program. I've looked at a bunch of different companies. It came right back around the general code, and I'll tell you why, because Laserfish, when they scan the program, the information goes straight into our codes enforcement program. And as you know, my primary focus was to get those thousands and thousands and thousands of property files into a software. And what better way than to have it directly integrate into our current software. So I'm asking for a motion to hire general code. Now, this does not include their scanning services, but this does include the software and the integration of that.
I'll make a motion to approve a contract with General Code, but do we need to have an amount for this?
Now, so we are going to do their professional service option, is what we're asking for.
All right, so I'll add that to the motion then.
Motion by Mr. Lavenberg. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Anders. Any further discussion? Is there a time frame once we start doing this when they're gonna start scanning possibly?
So we are still getting a quote from them on the scanning piece,
Okay.
but right now we want to get the program rolling. But we're still getting a cost estimate for the scanning part. So
Shane, how much space will this create when we're able to get rid of all the hard copies?
So I will tell you that it's an entire room and a half downstairs.
Yeah.
To start. Once we move into other departments, right, it will be, we're talking about rooms full of paper. And again, like we've said, this is a multi-year project. Like you'll see probably for the next 3 or 4 years, we'll ask for a budget to have them scan. And then moving forward, we'll scan our own items into the program. But there's just stuff that you can't get rid of the paper unless you have some kind of electronic holding of it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
All right. You see, Ryan Malik has resigned as an EMT. You see the paperwork in there. And the last thing that I would like to announce is the appointment of Guy Washburn as head group leader. Very excited about this. Here's a gentleman who has truly worked his way up through the system and has done everything that he's been asked to develop as a leader in that department. And so extremely excited to name him as head group leader. Guy has been a group leader for a number of years on the on the highway side of things. As head group leader, he will be incorporating parks and highway as what he oversees. And then our other head group leader is going to continue overseeing the mechanics and the utility side. And as I think the Public Works Committee is aware, we've eliminated a regular group leader position in the mechanics side. We will name a new group leader on the highway side, a regular group leader. And at some point later this year, we have a retirement coming on the park side, and we'll be naming a new group leader on the park side as well. So we have some new leadership within that department, and that goes back to another item that if you look at your Public Safety Committee minutes or notes, we had discussion about the professional development of these individuals that are getting promoted up through systems. We need to do a much better job of preparing them, but also developing them so that they can provide the leadership that we expect, and that they deserve that kind of training to be successful. So very excited for Mr. Washburn, well deserved. I've been very open with him. 7 years ago, I probably wouldn't have said that. So it's exciting to see his development as a professional in that department and the leadership that he's done. So I think Guy is going to do a great job in his new role. Other than that, I will report progress. We've kept you here longer than you're used to. I know Mr. Brown, I saw him falling asleep. So
He was in the sun too long yesterday.
but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, we'll report progress.
Thank you. Under President's business, I have nothing. We will not have an executive session tonight. Is there a motion for?
Yeah, we're good. They saw it.
Yeah. Yep. Motion for adjournment?
No move.
Mr. Brown, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Hohenscheid? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Meeting is adjourned at 8:25. Thank you, everyone.
I don't know, Kristen, every